Welcome to Two Feathers Restorations and Design. What's going on in the shop this week is we are focused on the 1948 PD4151 GMC Silversides bus project. This episode is sponsored by Powderstrip.com. Powderstrip.com we did a previous episodes on, so please check out our previous videos as well as our previous two episodes utilizing the product on our bus. And this episode is also sponsored by PPG Paints, particularly the commercial performance products. The paint that we are using will be featured on our bus. So we are headed out here to our bus project. Ray and Jill have been working on removing the paint from the exterior of the bus as well as the interior. And so we're just going to be doing a little walkthrough throughout this final episode here. And you can see as we walk around the differences that slowly develop. Now, this front section here, we've done two attempts to remove the paint from the bus. On this back section here, they were just either going on the first step or second step there. You can see very, very little is left behind. That yellow color that you see there is what GM used as the first layer of product, and that is to allow the paints to properly adhere to the aluminum chassis that these buses are built from. In fact, you'll find very, very little metal. And this bar that's directly in front of us is actually steel, surprisingly. So that's why you see that little bit of a rust look to it. And here is Ray doing a bit of pressure washing. You have to be very careful with this product. The powder strip product is a commercial grade stripper, aircraft stripper. Very, very, very strong. Makes your skin tingle. But to neutralize it, you gotta use water. Now in this case, when you apply the product, putting it on really thick is key. Letting it sit for a good half hour, 40 minutes, does a job. Here Jill is using a brush. We found out, believe it or not, that was the best method. We tried a roller with a 3/8 snap. It just wasn't putting it on thick enough as this brush here. And you really wanted to watch out, even with the roller, was trying to prevent it from splattering. And so that was our best method. Here we have some of our ductwork that we were getting ready to strip. You can see the backside really coming along. This is just one layer being stripped off. And now in this area here, this is a really, really important area. As you strip your bus, you can't see it in here so well at this point. We'll show later dates, but what I'm pointing out right here is where either the letter E or the letter G used to exist. We really believe it's a letter G, being that it was a Indiana route based out of Detroit, Michigan. According to the build sheet, this should have had a number that started with the letter G. Very center there, it's been scratched away, but we were able to make out what we believe either a E or a G, a dash. That's right where my finger is now, is the letter number 4. And off to the right, we made out the number 9. But yet on our doorway, which is stripped, the camera couldn't really pick it up. We can actually make out a different number. So, little history, as the bus moved around from route to route, it would get a different change of numbers. We do know its final number, which is painted on the bays when you open the bay doors. So we want to keep all this history together. It just adds to the depth of the bus. In our eyes, just like going to a classic car show and a owner has a detailed book showing its restoration, maybe its owner's histories, or even if it's a very historical race car even. It's a lot of fun to have all that type of detail. So we've got the bus pretty well stripped on its first run. There's a couple spots here in the back we actually haven't really touched yet. We were really trying to focus on getting majority of it done. We are experiencing what's called a Indian summer, and usually it's only about a week long. You go through a pretty heavy cold spell, then it jumps into about a week's worth of 70 degrees, then you're right back to a cold snap, in fact below zero. Now here's something that you do know about, but now that it's stripped you really see it, is where this bracket, now I'm pointing out the fact that you have a piece there that's brass. Camera like to keep going in and out of focus there a little bit, but it has this adjustment where the driver can access, and clearly water was able to get in there, and in the freezing elements it expanded and it totally cracked that. That's a problem. We may have to see about having this recasted if we can't find a replacement. We do have access to some parts buses, but this was a known problematic issue for these buses. So needle in a haystack as far as trying to find one that is not cracked. We're going to go over here to the other side momentarily, and you'll see that even that particular mirror shows some problems. Now the back side of this mirror, I think this one probably hit a tree that probably helped create the cracks. You can see that there's been some repair work both at the top and the bottom being the worst. I'd like to go ahead and think that we'll go ahead and replace these with a better set of mirrors, but that's not necessarily as easy to do. It's easier said than done in most cases. By the driver's door window there, you can see it's a little bit bumped up, so I've got a little bit of bodywork. Not sure why that's pushed up like that, but you can see how clean it is. That's just about as clean as you're going to get. There's not much else you can do to that. We'll do some sanding and stuff like that, but just for aircraft stripper, it's in really good shape. This breastplate's still got to come off yet. We've got the screws soaking. We've got all the details around the windows nice and clean at this point. We're going to shoot all this with primer here. We've stripped the bus literally as far as we can. A lot of these little parts are great that you can throw them in the blaster. Now this is kind of cool. When you strip the bus, here's a nick in the body, and it had filler in it, and because we stripped it, that filler came out. So we'll make that repair. We already know we're going to do some lead work up top here, even though we've popped out in previous episodes most of all these dents up front. They're as popped out as we can get them now, so it's as near perfect as possible to the original bus. And you can see a little debris from when we pressure washed it. We weren't too worried about the door being dirty, but you look carefully on this bottom bracket here, you can see where the cracks have developed. So we're going to want to kind of clean that up. Now, between those two belt lines that you see there is actually where the original number would have been placed on the door as well. And like I say, that number does not match the back one. So here we are with the driver's area. It's been stripped. Now it's been sanded. You can really see the difference after you've sanded the surfaces. Jill did a little bit of pre-taping there. We taped off the handle area itself. You would have to dismantle things a little bit further if you were going to physically take that out. Just didn't make sense in this case. But you can really see how things, taking the trim off, things of that nature, it really came out. We're pointing out here there's some dents here. We're going to tap these out. These little rubber platforms, metal brackets, we're going to bend those back and the rubber pads will be replaced. Now we left the handle in place, just taped it up. It's high enough up, out of the way. You can see the floorboard here. It's pretty hard getting back in here for some sanding. Honestly, it could have been a little bit better detailed work back in this floor area. If I was doing this for a customer, they probably wouldn't have been happy with some of the finish that was there, because the pedals are still in place. You would want to remove those to really get nice and clean surfaces behind there. So if there's going to be anywhere to knock the paint job, it would definitely be on the smoothness of that surface. But it's been primed and everything, but it's a little chunky, but it's not going to be noticeable to the average person. All the other surfaces are really clean and smooth. Now we have a lot of little pieces that are off of here that have yet to be treated, primered, and painted. So those will be coming, but this is the primary focus, is getting all this area done just so that we can, over the winter months here, run all of our electrical. If we're going to do modifications, we can. Now we can make the bus where it's drivable. Now you have it where everything's primed, and these are all commercial paints by PPG. It is actually a little bit cheaper than a traditional automotive paint. The handoff is the type of paint you put on top is a single stage paint. It's not going to have as high of a gloss of a paint as a traditional automotive, but the paint's going to last 20 plus years. Now we're talking about this little hole here. I've seen a couple other buses, parts buses, that have corrosion in that area. It happened. People came in the bus. These ran during the winter months. We're going to put a little patch panel over that, trying to make it blend in a little bit. Could have fixed it, could have welded it, smoothed it out. But again, we're trying to leave the bus in a way that it's still in service. So putting a little plate over it will be perfectly fine. In fact, there's a little dent right as you go into the walkway where somebody's baggage had created the dents. You kind of see them to the left of the screen right now. But we've primered everything that we pretty much can. The very front wall here, you may hear me mention it several times, is going to actually have insulation. If you follow the Bus Grease Monkey, if you don't, please do. He does have a YouTube channel as well. And follow Bus With Us with Jason. He does have a nice Silverside bus now, and he'll be doing a restoration to a point. His interior's in pretty good shape, but they'll be converting it into an RV. But Jason hasn't really experienced it, but Scott has, and that's having that front wall be really cold when you're driving down the road. Those are little dents there that we were talking about. There's trim that goes in that area too. But Scott Crosby, he does drive his bus quite a bit. In the last couple of years, he's been a traveling diesel mechanic. So if you have a vintage bus, he is the guy. He is now down in the Tennessee area, just outside of Nashville. Kind of have to know him before he'll work on your bus, because there's been a lot of followers. So you got a lot of people in line here. Does great work. You can definitely see how this is all coming together. So the color has been painted in the bus. We did some touch-ups and accidentally some paint got pulled off because the paint's not cured enough, and that's what happens. But luckily there's some trim that goes here, so not so much of an issue. But trying to get as smooth of a surface as you can is a challenge when it's an old bus that's imperfect. So we think she came out pretty sharp. And it really looked like Papa Smurf. I mean, it was really vibrant of a color when it was first sprayed. This was sprayed on Monday, and today is now Tuesday, and so it's been a full 24 hours, and it has darkened considerably. So looking from this angle, get a better idea of what kind of color is going on here. Now, we found this color underneath the layers of paint that was pre-existing on our bus. Our understanding is each bus was part of a block of buses that were ordered, and most likely each block was built identical to each other for a specific route or area in which they're going to be assigned. Now, this bus being an Indiana bus based out of Detroit, I don't know. It'd be cool to find another bus that was part of the block of buses that this was part of, that particular order, to see, do they match? Don't know, but it's a cool factor. It's just one of those neat things that can dive you more into the bus history. That's what intrigues us, because there's a lot of unknowns. The documents don't exist as much as, let's say, a classic car may exist. So our privacy screen was taped off and covered up, and there is some vinyl material that's there. That's going to come off. That's all stainless steel in that area, so that'll be cleaned up and everything. But at this point, we can take out what's left of the wiring harness that's laying in there and start laying it in. Now, we weren't worried about every single nook and cranny, per se, getting a layer of paint. The front wall of this bus is going to get a layer of insulation, so you're not going to see it. We do want it protected, but we didn't have to worry about it making it look perfectly pretty. So there's some things that, if we chose to do some detail work and color tones for the door mechanism, sure, you can do those things, but by no means is it required. But it just, how far do you really need to take it? So each individual owner will have a different idea on that. And we're making this bus where it's like a service bus, still in service. What would you do? And yes, hypothetically, the harness would be in better shape. We wouldn't have to have taken it out. So we're doing a similar paint job to what we would have expected Greyhound to do if it was still in service. So they would have just stripped it down really quick, like what this would, for the most part, represent. We would have taken it a bit further, of course, than they would, and they would have rehabbed the bus and put it back on the line. So that's what we're replicating. We are not making it where it's a perfect brand new bus, but it's going to be very, very nice. So that is our update as far as our interior. The driver's area is now nicely painted, ready to go. The windshield area, really nice now. We're going to be removing all of our tape that is around the steering wheel and stuff like that. No need to leave it here. Don't need to be fighting any adhesives that might be there. As far as the windows are concerned, we're just going to let it be. Probably in the morning we may choose to install the plywood that we have cut to size for it. And we do have rain on its way, but rain will not affect the paint. We don't want to keep any acid rain, but we don't have acid rain issues where we are. We're not near the big cities. So that would be a factor that you, if you live in a city, would need to watch out for when you're painting outdoors. So we are in a good spot at this time. The most we might do is put some plastic up outside and tape it down until we put the plywood in play. But for now, the windows will stay out. We do have some stripping to do, and that's it. So there's your update. Pretty much 3 videos was able to cover all of this. Please make sure you like us and follow us, and please definitely share what's going on. There's a lot of people in the interest of restoring vintage buses, and you got to start somewhere, and this is probably as bare bones as you can get as far as the driver's area. And keep following us as this all comes together. And we're in the process of taking the 2 upper panels to our local sign shop, as they did have stickers on them that we want to reproduce. And then we will be bringing those panels back, installing them back in position in a primer phase, already pre-sanded and ready for paint. We'll reinstall those, as well as with the ducts back where they need to go. Then we're going to have to tape them off to paint the ceiling panels white. And unfortunately, we have to reinstall things in that format because of the tight fit. There would be extremely high probability that these covers that go on these ventilation systems would get scratched. So that will be our future steps. You got to plan things out very, very carefully. So stay tuned as our project continues. There are many things to do in the meantime. So we've gotten a lot of phone calls, emails about our videos, and we are getting a lot of requests about, hey, how do I join the vintage bus community? Well, we have a link for you for that. And we also have a page that we're going to recommend this week that you visit. It is Bus With Us. And Jason and Angie had been looking for over a year for their own vintage bus. And they have created a really nice page on YouTube. So go ahead and check them out. Just do a search, and they're up. That logo that you see here will pop up on the screen, so you know you got the right page. Then there is a YouTube channel, Bus Grease Monkey. There's a space between the words. Hundreds of hours of videos of Scott traveling the country, working on vintage buses, specifically buses by GM that use the 671 motors, and a lot of great content in there. But he has created a bus community, and this is the website that you want to go to. It's busgreasemonkey.com. And anybody that's got a vintage bus should join this page. There are some requirements in order to join, just so that we can weed out the keyboard warriors and that kind of thing. But you can see buses that are for sale. If you have a problem with your bus, you can put it out there, and those that know about the buses can help you out. You can also find service manuals and a lot of great stuff. Follow restorations such as ours as well. A lot of great things going on in that community. So check it out, and we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on our next episode.